Hi, welcome. Everybody's looking very fresh-faced for 10:30 in the morning. Thank you so much for coming. I am shocked to see how many people are interested in Telegram. My name is Jane. I am a freelance reporter. I primarily contribute to the Wall Street Journal. I specialize in online investigations, but I also work hard to combine online investigations with traditional reporting. Today I'm going to be walking you through Telegram, what it is, how it works, and some tools and approaches that we can use as journalists. If you're a power user, you will probably know some of these tips, but I hope you'll get something out of this already. I want to start by just talking through what Telegram is. For a long time, especially in the Western world, Telegram was seen as a sort of niche social media network. Nobody really knew what it was used for. But over the last several years, it has exploded in popularity. So a little bit of background. Telegram was founded by the Durov brothers in 2013, so I guess that's almost 12 years ago now. The photo you see is Pavel Durov back when Telegram was founded. I really like to give an early photo because if you go to his Instagram page and you see the Photoshop work that he's done on himself now, you really see a before and after picture. But the Durov brothers began actively developing Telegram after a conflict in Russia in 2013, 2014. Around government requests for VK. Pavel Durov was heavily involved in VK, Russia's Facebook, and after essentially not wanting to succumb to Russian requests, he began developing Telegram more actively, which until then was just an app that he and his brother built to communicate. Currently, he's based in Dubai, and the app has reached 1 billion users this year. It's growing quite quickly, but it is not yet profitable according to interviews that Durov has given. Last year, he was talking about considering US-based IPO. I don't know how realistic that is in that moment, but it's always something good to keep in mind. And they are also focusing quite a bit on building out their own blockchain network. So you will, if you cover cryptocurrency, you will see a very active community on Telegram. Durov has said that he sees Meta as his primary rival. But I will say using Telegram has more of an air of early Twitter. It is an extremely useful tool for breaking news situations. And because of its group function tool, it can also be a great way to find sources in a way that other social media networks don't allow you to do. Telegram also has very small staff. They contract out a lot, but their core staff is, I'm not going to give you a number to not lie, but it's quite small. And unlike every other social media network, there's no algorithmic amplification on Telegram. So it is fully chronological, and you go to each channel to read it like a blog, rather than choosing content for you. It is the only social media network that has no algorithmic amplification. It also has minimum moderation. And for this last year, Durov was held in France because the French authorities alleged that he had allowed for criminal activity to go on the app with knowledge. And since then, they have increased moderation somewhat, but it still remains something of a free-for-all. You will find a lot of illicit activity on Telegram from unconsensual AI pornography, to drug sales, to illegal movies, downloads, whatever you like. So Telegram, it remains a free-for-all app. If you're somebody who covers conflicts around the world. It is also the app where you can find unfiltered images and videos from on the ground very frequently. Gaza, Ukraine. This app hosts images and videos that other social media networks would moderate out and would filter out. So just very quickly, I want to talk you through how the app functions. There are four main functions for Telegram. There's one-to-one messages, and although Telegram advertises itself as a secure app, it is not. And the one-to-one messages are not encrypted by default. So keep that in mind when you're searching for sources. It also has a group chat function, which can sometimes feel a little bit like a Facebook group function. It allows up to 200,000 members, and it can be open or closed. These groups can vary from, the illicit activity that I already mentioned to neighborhood groups. I'm based in Kyiv, and I primarily cover Ukraine, and sometimes you can get as granular as finding a Telegram group for a house that you're interested in, or for a neighborhood that you're interested in. Channels are a one-way communication. Think of it as a Twitter feed. A Twitter feed or a blog. There are a lot of aggregate channels that will post various news contents. You'll also find legitimate news organizations on Telegram. If you're curious, you can go see the New York Times and the BBC and the rest of it, the Wall Street Journal. They can include comment sections, but they frequently don't. And before you ask, because this comes up every time, the identity of the administrators can be quite hard to find. Usually you will see who is administering the app, but going down the rabbit hole and finding the real identity of a person is akin to finding the real identity of a Twitter feed, X feed, when that person really does not want to be found. It's doable, but it requires some wrangling. And I'll also say that channels have the ability to broadcast, so they both have the stories feature, and they can do live broadcasts as well, live video broadcasts. And the last thing I want to talk about is Telegram bots. So there are many, many apps that are built on top of Telegram. These can be, in Ukraine, these can be government apps where you report if you see Russian equipment passing by, you can report it. You can report it to the government, or it can be something like, an app to request an illegal movie download. But one of the reasons why I want to focus, or not focus, but make an accent on the bot feature specifically is because very frequently aggregator channels that post news will have a bot to communicate with. So this is something where people can send content to that channel potentially to be posted. You will see it in the description. I'll show you where you can find that. And these bots are not always automated. So if you're trying to get in touch with somebody who runs a channel, find the corresponding bot and just start speaking to them. It's most often just a person reading messages and is not an automated feature. Really important, even though counterintuitive. And before we get into the functions and the nitty-gritty of it, I just want to talk through what you can use Telegram for, especially if you haven't used Telegram before. Finding sources during breaking news events, it is a go-to, depending on the area of the world that you cover, but we see Telegram growth across the world already. And you can directly message anybody on Telegram, and it will not go to hidden messages like it does on Facebook. It will not ask you to pay like it does on X. So you can just very quickly find somebody you're interested in, message them, call them, and likely receive a response. Monitoring communities is a really important one. Before I covered the war in Ukraine, I covered disinformation, and this is a big place where disinformers coordinate. It's also a big place where protests coordinate. It's a It's a place where political groups and special interest groups communicate with each other. And if you look at more mainstream social media networks, Telegram is very frequently the place where disinformation starts. It's also a great place to obtain any kind of media files because of its loose moderation policy, and because it is the only social media network that keeps metadata on images and videos, and I'll show you how you can get to that. It's also really easy to build out relationships on Telegram, so you can quite easily see which channels are coordinating or cooperating or advertising in a way that with other social media networks has become more difficult as the mainstream social media networks really lock down the data for researchers. And I will show you plenty of examples. And finally, just very quickly, I want to talk about gathering evidence. When we talk about gathering online evidence, I always keep the Berkeley Protocol in mind. So the Berkeley Protocol is a document that was put together for online investigators, primarily for legal cases, but it's really useful for journalists as well. And this is the investigative cycle that they suggest for online investigations. And Telegram can fit into this quite well because the Berkeley Protocol lays out what you need for documents to be admissible in various courts. Of course, it varies region from region, but one of those things is metadata. And Telegram, as I said, is the only social media network that keeps metadata, which can be quite useful if you are doing human rights work specifically and you need to preserve that evidence. Some great use cases that exist out there already. There's a volunteer collective that is called GeoConfirmed that monitors conflicts around the globe, primarily with social media, but especially Telegram data. So these are all videos that have been geolocated and verified and placed on a timeline. So if you're somebody who covers wars and conflict, this is a fantastic resource. ACLED also uses Telegram for its monitoring data, and one of the things that I think is really important for us as reporters is to keep in mind the security of the platform. So I gave you a link here, and you will have a link to the whole presentation. Don't worry about taking notes. This is just going to be a resource for you for as long as you need it. But just some basics very quickly. If you can use a burner number or a secondary phone number to set up Telegram, its security is not great, and there's been a lot of questions recently about its connection to Russian government and Russian security sources. I would not allow access to all your photos and other data to the app for the very same reasons. If you're sending photos to somebody who is maybe not the most comfortable source, strip the metadata out of those photos yourself because it does keep metadata. So if you want to be secure on that side, just be careful. And if communicating with sources, try to bring them to more secure messengers for communication. So I will very frequently find somebody on Telegram and then try to move them over to Signal or WhatsApp, just in case. The full guide, it's really, really useful. It walks you through every single feature that you need to flick on and off. I'll leave that to you. We don't need to spend too much time on that today. And if you already use Telegram, but you haven't used it on desktop, make sure to set up Telegram on your computer as well. You will get the most out of it. And I do not mean to talk to you like you're 5, but I inevitably get this question every single time. When you set up Telegram on your computer, do it through the website. Do not download it from the App Store. You will not get some of the features that downloading it from the website will get. So if you download Telegram on your computer, do it from the website. Otherwise, you will be emailing me saying, I don't see this function. And I will say, did you download it from the website? And you will download it from the website anyway. So some built-in functions that it already has. Like I said, it's a really great tool for already just out-of-the-box researching. It is the only social media network that allows you to download the entire history of a chat or a channel. That includes the history of the channel before you joined. So if you go to any channel, you click on the little hamburger menu, you have your export chat history button, and it will export all media, all posts, excluding posts that have been deleted. And when you click on that button, it'll allow you to choose what you want to export, and it allows you to choose a format you want to export it in. So HTML is a little bit more readable. JSON is great if you work for data, with data, not for data, although. And you can also choose both. Fantastic function. If you, like me, are not very good with JSON files and want to convert it to a CSV, oh my God, needed to have an extra coffee today. If you want to convert it to a CSV, this is one of the best CSV converters I found out there. It will just make you a tidy spreadsheet that will include all the social media posts from the channel that you're interested in. That you can then import into Google Sheets or whatever else you use, and filter for data that way. The result will look something like this. You will get some unnecessary data, but you know, c'est la vie. As I said, you can also get metadata from video, audio, and voice memos. This is particularly useful if you are a warlord, like the man pictured here, Prigozhin, and you are marching on Moscow, and you are voice memoing it all live. The easiest way to do this is to just save the data, save the image or the video or the voice memo directly to your computer. So the metadata checker is not built into Telegram. Save it directly to your computer. In this case, I just wanted to check when this video was filmed. There are many metadata readers out there. None of them are particularly different from one another. I like metadata to go just as a go-to, but you know, Jeff's Exifure is just as good. There's a lot of these tools out there. And so I will throw the image or the video into this viewer, and it will show me exactly when the image was created and also modified. Some channels will erase this, or you know, you don't always get lucky, but most of the time you can at least get the create date of the file. It also almost always saves the original name of the file, and so sometimes you really just get saved to so-and-so's computer, you know, from Photoshop. It can be really convenient. But in this case, we were able to very quickly verify the date and time that the video was filmed. Now, is metadata foolproof? Of course not. Metadata can also be altered, but it is a great data point for us to have. Of course, you can also search posts by date. If you go to the channel and click on the magnifying glass, you can set a date range that you're interested in, and you can set some key terms if you like. You are not able to do advanced search on Telegram, so the and the ors and the minus signs, Telegram does not support that, so you do have to kind of wrangle it by just individual key term, but the timing function is really useful, particularly if you're trying to look at a specific event and the conversation around that event. And it also really handily just tells you who else you should be looking at. So channel discovery is probably one of the most, not complicated, but you always want to know where to start and how to snowball your research. I believe last year, or maybe the year before, can't remember what year it is outside anymore, they introduced a function called similar channels. Now, you can pay for Telegram. I don't. If you do pay for Telegram, you'll get the full list of channels. If you don't pay for Telegram, you'll get the top 10. I'm going to preempt a question before you ask it. How does it show? How does it decide which channels are related? It's very simple. It's really just who else are the subscribers of this channel subscribing to. It is as simple as that. It is not algorithmic. There are very few algorithmically based features on Telegram. It is not algorithmic. It is not complicated. It is really like the bulk of Intel Slava Z channels also subscribe to Slavyangrad, and then many of them subscribe to DD Politics and so on. But it's really useful for understanding what kind of network and what kind of conversation that a particular channel is fitting into. And I think this is the last note I want to give you on the Telegram function proper, which is the comment sections. So as I said, Telegram is an app that has a lot of apps built in. And sometimes channels will allow comment sections within their channels. And the way it's done is usually they install an app that then creates another Telegram group for the comment section. So an example is, I realize I've been pointing left, but I should have been pointing right all along. So an example is we see the Donald Trump Jr. channel, and it allows comments. When you tap on the comments section, it'll show you discussion, 103 comments. When you tap on that discussion, it'll open a whole new Telegram group with everybody who comments on Donald Trump Jr.'s posts. Why is this useful? One, you can monitor a lot of activity on whatever it is that you're covering or whatever it is that you're interested in. But two, if you're somebody who works with eyewitness news a lot, this is a place where you can start looking for eyewitnesses. So if you go to an aggregator channel, if you go to a place where people are having that conversation, you can immediately start searching for words like I heard, I saw, near me, over here, etc. And you can immediately just tap on the person's icon, the person's face, and start that conversation. So you can very quickly go from finding a channel to talking to sources in a way that no other social media network allows you to do. I will tell you that finding channels on Telegram proper sucks. It is not very useful. It asks you to just think in key terms. It only gives you the top 10 or 15 channels, but it exists. One of the best ways to get around this is to use Google, to use a little Google search operator. We're not going to get into Google search operators today, but the site : search operator essentially tells Google, look only on this website. Just as another quick note, if you've never used this before, never put the space after the colon. If you put the space after the colon, it will not work. And the URL that you want to be searching for Telegram is t.me, and then you can search any key terms, and yes, in any language. So the t.me in the site has to be in English. Everything else can be in any language that you yourself are working in. I also strongly recommend using X for channel search. Very frequently you will find Telegram channels advertising on X, or during breaking news situations, you will see people post videos from Telegram channels, and if you go to that Telegram channel, you will sometimes get warning explicit videos or more explicit videos than more mainstream social media networks will allow. And then you're able to see, okay, what other Telegram channels are posting about this, and very quickly build out your network. So Twitter can be extremely useful for searching for Telegram channels. I'm also going to urge you to think creatively. Nobody uses only one social media network at a time, and every social media network promotes itself on other social media networks. So I'm going to show you one of the ways which I found some really great Telegram channels is, first, I did a search for Facebook groups. So the site :search operator, you can use that for Facebook as well. Just make sure to do the /groups to limit your search to Facebook groups. In this case, I was interested in Mariupol because we were doing a project on the missing people in Mariupol. And I very quickly found some Facebook groups that I was interested in. And within those Facebook groups, I typed in t.me, which is the extension for Telegram, and limited it to the year that I was interested in. And very quickly, Facebook understood exactly what I meant and served me some of the groups that I was interested in. So this is exactly what I was talking about. This group was a volunteer group where you could immediately start talking to people, understand what was going on the ground. This was probably by far the most useful thing that I found for this project, which was a list of local neighborhood Telegram groups in Mariupol that we were then able to go into and see what was happening as long as during the siege of Mariupol in 2022. So as long as there was communication in those groups up until about mid-March, we were able to see the sort of conversations neighbors were having with each other during the invasion of Mariupol and build our investigation on top of that. So definitely look at other social media networks when you're investigating Telegram. And if you're trying to figure out if somebody's on Telegram, it's very easy. Just type t.me/ the full phone number with the country code, and you'll be able to find them on Telegram. Or if you know their username on X or Blue Sky or another social media network, type in the username, see if you luck out, and if they're on Telegram, and if you can search them. Okay, that was just Telegram proper. We're doing fine on time. You guys are doing okay? Okay, great. I'm gonna walk you guys through some tools, some outside tools that I find are useful. I don't use these tools every day for everything, but I do find them to be a great supplement whenever I need to look for something quickly. So probably one of the most popular tools for Telegram is TGStat. TGStat gives you Telegram analytics, and it has Telegram channels, groups, and catalogs. Over the last year, it now asks you to log in with Telegram to view some of these things. I have minimized using this tool as a result because it is a tool based out of Russia, and I generally try to minimize usage of tools based out of Russia. But it is a great tool to have in your back pocket. It sort of flips back and forth on how useful it is, but it is definitely one of the most popular. And this is some of the statistics that you would be able to see if you were using TGStat as a tool. There is a really great new alternative to TGStat that I strongly recommend called Telemetrio. This is just a genuine marketing tool. It's made for people who use Telegram for advertising, marketing, whatever. And any tool made for marketers is a useful tool for journalists. So Telemetrio is great. It has a free tier and a paid tier. It does limit some of your results for the free tier, and it also asks you to sign in, but you can sign in either using your Telegram or your Gmail account, and there's nothing to stop you from making several Gmail accounts to increase the amount of information you have access to. The reason why this tool is great is because it has an immense catalog of not just Telegram channels, but also apps, advertising, and cryptocurrencies. So this is something that they've really built it out over the last couple of years that I've been using it, and they're continuing to build out this tool. It also allows you to search for posts. The free tier, I think, gives you 5 posts for your key terms, but it allows you to search for posts within their catalog, which is extremely useful. And it also gives you channel stats. So here's our channel stats for Intel Slava. a Russian propaganda channel, and you're able to see the subscribers, but I want to turn your attention to the incoming and outgoing mentions function, as well as the similar channels function. So you're able to very quickly build out, okay, I'm interested in this channel, what else should we see? It gives you the location of who reads or who mentions this channel. So we see that this channel is read primarily from the USA, Germany, and Italy. It gives you advertisements that this channel hosts. And it also gives you mentions and reposts of this channel. So you're able to see both channels that are pointing to this channel and the channels that this channel is advertising. So you're able to really quickly understand, okay, I'm placing this within the Russian propaganda network. Here's how they're all coordinating. Here's where the boosts are coming from. Here's the subscriber growth after a specific post. So you're able to get really, really granular if that is the sort of work that you're doing. There is also another superpower but paid tool called Telepathy, Telepathy DB. It also has a GitHub if you're GitHub inclined. I'm not GitHub inclined, so I always use the interface. And this tool allows you to reverse image search images, as well as search for posts and do advanced search for Telegram. So if you're somebody who really needs to get granular, or if you're somebody who works with a lot of data, if you've got a great data department, absolutely, this is a great tool. And it is built by a former reporter who now does this specifically, Jordan. So really great tool for journalists as well. And not to send too many inquiries his way, but if you need some help navigating Telegram, these guys are generally pretty helpful for reporters, being former reporters themselves. So just very quickly, like what to look for, right? Everybody here is going to have different directions, different beats. That's what it's called, different beats that you're covering. And so I'm hesitant to say, look for this or look for that. But one of the things is channels will post advertisements, donations, promote websites, promote their own cryptocurrencies. So in the case of our friend Intel Slava Z, he always posts where you can donate. And if you're somebody who wants to understand how something is funded, or if you're somebody who is really into crypto, you can try to trace the source of funding, as an example. So yeah, search for key terms like me, my, mine. That's my favorite. If you're trying to look for individuals, sometimes individuals will give themselves away if you're trying to find a channel owner. Like with every social media network, the investigation does not stop on the platform, so check the same username across platforms. Reverse image search profile photos if you're trying to figure out where else this person is active. The metadata, I cannot stress enough how much the metadata is a gold mine. It is really... always check. You're always bound to get lucky. If you don't see it on one video, check it on another video. It is also a place where monitoring communities is quite easy. And if you're somebody who works in the disinformation sphere and you want to understand how a disinfo community behaves, what's normal and what's not normal, I would say that Telegram really allows you to do that. But one final thing I will say is don't get lost in the weeds. I have reached my maximum subscribe channel of 500. You're allowed to subscribe to 500 channels. And oh boy, did I wish I made some spreadsheets early on. So as you're investigating something, keep track of which channels you're interested in. And I say this particularly because there's no algorithmic amplification. Channels that post less frequently than other channels will get really bumped down in your Telegram monitoring community, and you will forget to check in on them. So However you take your notes, I love a spreadsheet, so however you take your notes, make sure you take notes. Telegram also has folders that you can organize your channels in, which kind of makes a sort of like TweetDeck adjacent tool, functionality out of Telegram. So you can use the folders feature on Telegram as well to stay organized. I'm going to let you just take a photo of this slide with a bunch of other tools. I personally find them not as useful as the tools that I showed you, but it's really great to at least have them in your back pocket. There's a lot of catalogs, a lot of statistics tools, a lot of top lists, and Google-based custom searches. Okay, and because all of this probably seems really abstract, before we get to questions, I just want to talk you through some potential projects or potential uses for your own reporting that I found really inspiring and really interesting and creative. So one is an investigation by Wired. It talked about how Telegram's bans on extremist channels aren't really bans. And what they did is they essentially compared restricted channels on their phones. So if they downloaded the phone app on Apple or Google Store, those channels are blocked. But if they go to a web app or a desktop app, those channels were not blocked. And so what they were able to figure out is that the ban was actually enforced on an app store level and not on the Telegram level. And they're able to do that by comparing the various functionalities of Telegram and showing how Telegram is not actually moderating extremist communities to the level that they say they were. So really interesting and worthwhile investigation if you're trying to understand Telegram functionality. I found this to be one of the most creative ways of Telegram usage and Telegram mapping I've ever seen. So this is a Ukrainian news outlet called Texty that does a lot of data-based and visualizations work. And essentially what they did is they gathered all of the various brand new Telegram channels that were Russian-speaking, but targeting Ukrainians in various cities. So, you know, like Kharkiv or whatever. They put all of those channels on a map just by the title. So they didn't map where the channel was located, but just by the title of these channels, all of these different neighborhoods. And they were able to show that the creation of Russian propaganda channels and the areas where they were created exactly matched the physical invasion of Russian tanks on the ground. So they were essentially able to show that the propaganda and the physical invasion really went hand in hand. And they went quite deep with it. They showed how all of these channels were posting the same propaganda at the same time. The language was very similar. And it was, I think, a really compelling case for how disinformation spreads during conflict. I cannot recommend this investigation enough. There's also this investigation that shows how incitement on Telegram can bleed into real life. So if you're somebody who covers conflict, or if you're somebody who covers hate, or if you're somebody who covers the spread of violence, you know, you know, I was trying to think of a metaphor. Anyway, if you're somebody who covers how violence from online spills into the offline world. I think there's many protests and many cases that you can dig into on Telegram, and I found this to be quite a compelling investigation. And finally, I had realized when I was preparing this presentation that I didn't do any self-promotion at all, which seems to be an oversight. But at the beginning, I told you that I generally use OSINT as a way to supplement traditional reporting. and our team on the Wall Street Journal's visual investigations team. We use Telegram a lot, and this was one of the most just interesting ways, just total crapshoot way that we got lucky. So we were investigating Russian theft of Ukrainian grain from occupied territories. And we really wanted to show the whole path from the moment the grain is taken from the grain elevator to the drive to the ships in Crimea, and then what happens afterwards. And we were trying to see what kind of evidence exists on Telegram. And I apologize to everybody who does not read Russian, but this was job postings. They posted jobs for people either in Russia or on occupied territories, telling them where they should pick up the grain and where it will be going. They literally just tweeted it out. They telegrammed it out. And not only that, but there were phone numbers at the bottom of these job postings. So I just literally picked up the phone and said, "Hi, I'm a journalist. I saw that you are taking grain from this place to this location. Can you verify that you're doing that?" And the man on the other line, a Russian, who was organizing logistics for this, said, "Yes, this is where the pickup is, this is where the drop-off is, no problem." Unparalleled. Job postings, buy and sell groups, local groups, Telegram has it all. Use it in creative ways. And I hope it is helpful to you in your reporting. If you want the presentation, here's the QR code. It is yours to keep forever. I hope you use it as a resource. I hope this gave you some ideas. And to those of you who are Telegram power users, I hope there was something new in here for you. We have a little bit of time for questions. Thank you. Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but it is news from last year that Telegram changed its privacy policy, basically stating that they will supply data to police and authorities upon request. Do you think it's something useful for, or a bad thing for journalists and for investigations?
So the reason why they changed that policy is because of Pavel Durov's arrest in France, or we don't know that, but it's strongly implied. I think that especially online investigations for reporters are a bit of a, it's complicated, because for us, the more information is available, the better, right? The less moderated a social media network, the more we're able to find on it. But of course, there's a lot of illicit activity that it goes on Telegram, totally, unabated. And so for the average user, it is, of course, better if that moderation is in place. Yes.
I just wanted to ask you, as an aspiring journalist, given Telegram's encryption and minimal moderation, how can a journalist navigate verifying information that circulates through potentially illicit or morally gray channels without amplifying harmful content or legitimizing criminal sources?
That's a great question. I think it's for reporters, the question of verification and the question of amplification are two separate questions. So when it comes to verification, we can use some of the tools that we talked about here. We can look at whether the content is original, when it appeared, whether anybody else has amplified it. We can use tools like geolocation or chronolocation to figure out if what we're looking at is genuinely what we're looking at. When it comes to amplification, it's a really, really complicated question. And that is a question that should never be, that is a decision that should never be made in isolation. So if you work with a newsroom, discuss with your editor, but also if you have lawyers, discuss with lawyers, depending on your area of investigation, what you are or are not able to publish and how you should be thinking about publishing this. But I will say that I think especially with online investigations, one of the most important things that reporters need to remember is not only finding who is behind a channel or how a network works, but what is the impact on somebody in that illicit network, in that disinformation network, in that criminal network. And if we tell our stories, not just from the perspective of the illicit activity, but from the perspective of the victim, from the perspective of the impact, then we are centering the result of these networks more than we're centering the people who run them. And for our readers, it is really important to understand that all of this illicit activity has a real impact. And the way we can do that is to think through how we're telling those stories. Who are we putting at the top? Who are we listening to as the story unfurls? Yes. Or, sorry, yes, you were first.
Sorry if this is a basic question, but when you download the Telegram for desktop, what security, what kind of security measures should you take? So, I mean, like, for example, can you link the desktop one to a burner number?
Yes, yes. So it works the same way as WhatsApp or Signal. You link it to your burner number, and in that little link that I gave you at the beginning of the presentation, you'll have all the settings that you need. You can hide your phone number. You can make sure you're not discoverable. All of that will be in there for you. Yeah, go ahead. Oh, yeah, hang on. And this is going to be the last question because we're low on time.
This is so fast, though. For those of us who are naive enough to sign up without using a VPN, would you recommend deleting the account and starting over? And is that possible with the same phone number?
It would be good. It depends on what you cover. You know, I have a burner number that I just use for all my messengers. That way I can just very quickly get an escape latch if I need to. So yeah, I would recommend, you know, if you have a chance to use a burner number, use a burner number. You asked about a VPN. Just always use a VPN. Not even for Telegram. Just always use a VPN. It's a very good practice for security. It masks your traffic between the Wi-Fi provider or the internet provider and your device. So yeah, always a good practice. Okay, thank you so much for coming. Enjoy the rest of your conference, everybody. Hope this was useful.